Hello, gang. Professor McElroy here. Welcome to Packaging Design. This session is all about exploring, understanding two-dimensional design templates for packaging purposes and how they are visualized in a three-dimensional space. It can be tricky at times to kind of visualize what this 2D template is, what the folds are, where the safety lines are, what a bleed is, where the elements are appropriate to scale and proportion in each panel of our packaging design, and then what that thing would look like in its three-dimensional space. It's a challenge I love because you get to explore 2D space in a three-dimensional world, and you can be really creative with kind of how you problem solve selling this product using creative packaging solutions. And there are just so many creative solutions out there in any food store that you go to, Publix or Piggly Wiggly or Wegmans or wherever you live in the country, or more niche stores like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and Fresh Market. There are so many creative packaging design solutions out there. So this is going to be an opportunity for us to explore that 3D space with 2D templates. So at times it could be a little tricky as to which side represents what when you're dealing with a flat surface area, but that's what we're going to learn. And we're going to start really easy with simple folder templates and work our way up to more complex die cuts and complex packaging templates as a whole. There are so many package templates out there in the world that you can download and tinker with and play around with, depending on the product that you're looking to build a portfolio around, whether it's milk cartons or 4-pack packaging or bag templates or carton shapes or anything. There are just so many out there. So we're going to spend some time in week one understanding what the line art, the line work for templates look like, how to explain what each line color is and type of line and what it means in the template. And also just start building a few things in a template world. Our first mini project will be a folder assignment, and we're going to build aspects of the folder assignment as part of our lecture tonight. And then you're also going to see like a DVD package, a cover file, and then an interior disc and booklet insert file. And that actually will be doing a 3D mock, a visualization of a concept for a show or movie where we're actually not using the booklet or the DVD template itself. We're using a 3D representation of it where we get to mock elements up to scale and proportion. So we're going to kind of spoon feed you into the packaging design process. Folder template and kind of a clear case, CD style packaging case, doing a 3D Photoshop visualization. We will be crossing around to different programs as we navigate through the packaging templates. If for whatever reason you struggle with downloading some of the templates attached to the assignments, you can always Google a template, and there's a ton of them out there that you can use. You can also screenshot the template that I provide and do a draw over or a redraw of it in Illustrator or whatever program we're using for the particular project, and you can build it based on that. I'm looking for you learning the understanding of the surface areas, what the packaging template looks like, understanding, what each panel represents, and producing a professional level output. So there's lots of different ways to do that. Remember, if you're using the VLab, you're actually connecting to a computer that sits on the Fort Myers campus here. So if you save a file from your computer to your desktop, you have to go into the network of the computer that's here and find your computer connected in the network to that computer. So it'll actually be a device that appears. I tell a lot of students to save files to the thumb drive on their computer if they're using the virtual lab. That way, when they go to network devices, they'll be able to find the thumb drive that was plugged into their computer easier than their computer, because remember, it'll just have a generic network name because your computer is just connected to that computer via the virtual lab. So if you're using that process, just be aware of that. You can always, I always tell students, if you're in the design program, you really should download Adobe CC and have the applications on your computer. I think it's $19.99 a month or something like that. So $20 to have access to all the programs. You can download them as a trial, but after 7 days, they run out, which is fine if you just needed them in a pinch for the final project week 4 or something like that. So just kind of keep that in mind as we start packaging design class. This is a 3000 level class, so all of you have navigated through 1 and 2000 level courses for the most part. So we should have a basic understanding of some of the Adobe programs. So now it's more about understanding this particular media application, the process to produce, and the professional output that you create. So that's what we're looking to achieve in packaging design class, GRA 3119. I really do love this class from a creative exploration process. So, no holds barred here. Try to be, stretch your wings of creativity. I try to give you pretty generalized topic templates so that you can truly run with conceptualizing creative solutions for those things. So just kind of keep that in mind. And you're also going to fall in love with pexels.com and vecteezy.com, because Vecteezy is great for vector art and Pexels is great for high quality photographs, because we're going to be doing a lot of mocking up in here of our package templates. And you want to make sure you use the absolute best assets you can to create the most professional solution that you possibly can. And we'll be doing a lot of clipping masks in here and cutting things out, which is really important to make sure it fits within the visualizing template of whatever project we're doing, and also giving it a clean look from a portfolio standpoint. So everything, even if it's a flat template, looks professionally applied. So we're going to do a little bit of your 2 projects for Learning Module 1, just to kick off the class to get us started. So no worries there. We'll get started together, and then you can apply your own unique assets to each of the projects for Learning Module 1. So before we get started, let's just pop over to Learning Module 1 really quickly. And I just want to highlight that there is a mini presentation, a little PowerPoint presentation in Learning Module 1. Really, it's the history of packaging, kind of goes back to Egyptian time and kind of evolves to today and gives you some samples. The very end of the PowerPoint presentation has an image of the nuts packaging. And I don't know if you've ever seen the YouTube video on that, but it's all about the young family member that took over the business and created those funky packaging, the nuts packaging, all the different colors with the word nuts kind of written playfully at the top with the little die cut window so you could see what's inside of the bags. It's a great branding exercise, and it's a really powerful kind of testimony to what you can do with packaging design. The business has boomed since, and it's a shipping business as well, a mail order business where they send them to your house. So it's really an amazing thing. So you should YouTube that and you'll get a really cool kind of story behind that. So make sure that you review Chapter 1's presentation. It's more just for historical food for thought, just to kind of help you, get inspired or get a background of inspiration behind packaging design as a media application. And that'll kind of kick us into the 2 mini projects that we have for this week. And also, please do remember that we always have a topic share in each of our learning modules. And packaging design is an excellent class for sharing things that you find when you're out researching and problem solving and brainstorming your packaging designs. So if you see something cool, share it in the design sample or topic share and tell your classmates why you think it's so cool. It's a really great way to have student to student kind of learning happening. And also remember, if you're part of a marketing agency or a corporate team, you're going to be sharing ideas and parts of the project that you're working on. So it's a good way to get employee to employee interaction, even though you're in a classroom setting. So please make sure that you're posting in there each week. And if you haven't done your student introduction yet, make sure you introduce yourself. We have a diverse group, in this cohort for this particular course, and everyone has their kind of unique skill set and unique interests. So it's a really excellent opportunity to kind of learn about your classmates and also learn from your classmates, because everyone has a different kind of path to design and a different background of where they are in their life right now. So please don't forget about the student introduction, and please don't forget about topic or design share that happens each week. I try to share mine via the announcement section to inspire you, which then brings me to the announcement section, right? This is where you're going to find that I post several times a week different things of inspiration, different student design samples, or different articles or videos I might stumble upon that I think are cool and pertinent to the class that you're in, which in this case is packaging design class. So you'll notice that I already have a beautiful Packaging Designs 2022 that hopefully inspires you and starts to get the wheels turning of creativity as it relates to what you might be exploring in your packaging design world. And for week one, we're going to be using DR Horton for our folder design. So I put a transparent PNG, which means it doesn't have a background, which you can see when I open it up. See how it's gray in the back there? It means it's transparent. Transparent images are really important for image overlay, which is what we're going to be doing a lot of in our packaging design project. So if you're using a logo, or you're wanting to cut something out with a clipping mask, it's important that as we build background to foreground in our packaging design solutions, that we have transparency. We should not have little white boxes around logos. We should not have little weird boxes around images. Like if you have a circle image, but it has a white box around it so it fits into a square or rectangular shape, we need a clipping mask or cut that out. I don't want to see any little white rectangles or squares around images that are supposed to be transparent. As much as you can make background, middle ground, and foreground look like they're all blending together, the better your solution will be, the more professional your solution will be, and just the better it will look. And also remember, if we're using images, we want to make sure they're of the highest quality. So if you're Google searching, you want to make sure that you sort your images by large. So they're at minimum 2,000 to 3,000 pixels in its largest size, because we need high resolution to mock up real world solutions. Hence the reason I said pexels.com is going to be our friend, because those are all super high resolution images. And Vecteezy is our friend, because this week we'll have a project in Illustrator, and Vecteezy is all about scalable vector graphics, and we'll need those for our folder projects so we can blow up our vector graphics and keep them crystal clear. So that's number one. And number two is that in our second solution, we're going to be doing a 3D visualization of that CD or movie booklet container. And we want to make sure we're using the highest quality images that we can. I don't want to see any dithering, pixelating, any fuzzy resolution in the elements you're using when you save it as a PDF for me at the end of the project or the end of the week, because these should be at the 3,000 level professionally applied solutions, which means they should look really good. There shouldn't be any smudging or blurring or anything like that. So with that being said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and download our files for this week's lecture. The very first one being our folder project. So I'm going to click on that little link, and it's going to download the Illustrator file. I'm using a Mac, so there it is. I'm just going to drag it to my desktop, and then I'm going to go back into my Learning Module 1, and I'm going to download my 2 Photoshop files as well, which is this 3D visualization of this clear packaging. And I call it a movie project, but it could be a video game, it could be a TV show, anything that could be contained in a clear container like this, some kind of sellable packaging. And this is kind of the template we're using. And you'll see one of the students' interior and exterior mock-ups for the assignment. Here's a TV show, Breaking Bad, that a student did the front cover and then did the interior assets for, which I thought was a funky solution. They use a painted filter to kind of create this kind of artistic interpretation of the Breaking Bad DVD collection or CD collection. So I'm going to go in here I've got to download the preview file. Remember, when you download and save these things, you should probably add your last name to them so that when you submit it for grading in Canvas, it's your last name and the project name. So I'm going to go ahead and drag these to the desktop. And while I have them on the desktop, I'm going to do a rename, and I'm going to put my name at the beginning. So McElroy _ DVD box. And I'm going to get rid of the 2 and just name it that. And then I'm going to do McElroy _ DVD interior, because it's really the interior disc and booklet. So there are my 2 projects for the second mini. And the first mini is the folder. So I'm going to call it McElroy _ folder. So there are my 3 projects. Remember, when you give them to me, I'm going to name this McElroy LM1 _ packaging, because that's my folder. I'm going to dump this stuff in my folder so that when I save my finished files, I can just compress this and make it a zip file, and you can submit the files via that. The folder, you could just give me just a PDF of the folder. For the DVD, it's 2 files, so you should at minimum zip up the 2 files, but I'm fine if you make this 1 zip and you submit it both for the folder assignment and the packaging, movie packaging assignment. So just zip this up and give it to me for both projects. That's perfectly fine too, if that works out better for you. And that'll kickstart our packaging assignment submissions. Remember, save them as a PDF, because you might use a typeface. You might use something that's unique to your computer, which makes it a little trickier for me, because I'm going to dump this into, which is my logo, DR Horton logo. And it flattens it for me so I can kind of see it as it's supposed to be seen. So, okay, now that we have those 2 things downloaded, I'm going to go ahead and minimize my canvas, minimize my little zoom window here, and I'm going to get into our very first project. And our first project is our folder assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that down and drop it into Illustrator so that we can open up our folder template. So this is our first mini project. I'm going to click OK. All that's doing is telling me that it has some native text here that is unique to this document. I'm going to go ahead and Command- to zoom out a little bit so that you can see all the guides, all the lines, all the areas of importance as it relates to this very first simple template project. Now we need to start off with a basic discussion on what packaging lines mean in templates when you're creating something that has to be printed, folded, glued, creased, die cut in a unique way. Now, the very first line that needs to be represented is the red line, which is called our die cut or trim line. And you'll notice that that little curve right there is a little indent that is cut out of this tab that folds in to create our folder. And you'll probably notice those on folders that you get if you ever actually open them up. And obviously the document has a red line, a trim line that goes around the entire document. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go and hide my guides. I'm just going to hide them for a minute. First off, I don't need them. And secondly, I want to make sure that you can see what is going on here with all of our lines. This is a Vistaprint template. That's a mass producing color print shop online that customers can send everything from magnets and all kinds of interesting design solutions to. They print them in color and they send them back to you as a mass produced quantity, like business cards and bumper stickers and all kinds of stuff. Keep in mind, they are a mass-produced shop, so whatever you send them, if it fits within that template, even if it isn't correct, they're going to print it and send it to you. So that's why it's so important to kind of know what's going on here. So the trim line or the die cut line is that red line that goes all the way around. The blue line is what we call our safety line or safe margin line. And it's this interior window for the back panel, the interior window for the front panel, and the interior window for the tab that folds into create our template, create our folder. Just keep in mind any image elements or textual elements that are important to be seen and processed need to be inside that safety line. The safety line means that this document is going to be folded on these dashed green lines. If you put any text or any elements of imagery of importance over this, it's going to be creased when it is folded. So you can obviously see that these two tabs are folded in. This is folded here. These are folded up inside of the folder, and this is our center folding line. So, and you'll also notice the text is upside down here because this tab is folded to the inside of the folder. These two tabs are the glue tabs. They are folded in and tabbed in, and that's how this stuff is all folded together. These fold in, this folds up, this glues to this glues to this, and it creates the tab for our folder and seals it off so that there are pockets. And that dark gray is the glue area, right? That's the glue area. So, and it's telling you that this is printed in 4-color process at high resolution, 300 dpi, and that Vistaprint is the producer of this template. This is a standard template for designing a simple folder, and I'm going to use a home builder as a folder client because home builders give all kinds of paperwork when you go to look at new homes, everything from floor plans to quotes to whatever accessories and stuff you're adding onto your house, like all the documentation you could ever need if you're building or buying a house. They always put in a folder. So realtors, home builders, it's really good business for folders. So I thought that would be an interesting client. So before we get into the actual concept of laying out what elements go on what part of the folder, I'm going to go into my layers tab, and you're going to notice that that is the template layer. And I'm going to tuck that down, and I'm actually going to unlock it because now that we know what the elements are, I'm going to go in and delete all unnecessary elements from this template, just because now that we know what the stuff is for, I want to only leave what is left that is pertinent to the design itself. So I'm going to clear out all of this stuff that makes no sense. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of all this text. I know what that is, so I'm going to get rid of that and get rid of that. Oh, these are 4 little slits that you put a business card in. So if you didn't know what that was, I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to get rid of all of the safety lines. So now you can truly see what this template is all about, right? Front cover, back cover, interior information panel, interior business card panel. And these are our tabs: fold in, these fold up, these 2 tabs, and this tab is glued holding this tab, and this tab is glued holding this tab right in these gray areas. So now that we also know that, I'm going to use my direct select, and I'm just going to select the glue tabs and get rid of those. Just know that you can't have anything that close to the edge of this tab because that is where the glue is going to be. So if I put like an address right here, that would make no sense because the glue, when this thing folds up, is going to touch this and it's going to get cut off. So we need to stay inside this little safety area here so we know exactly the surface area we're working with. Now, once I do that, I'm going to relock my template so that I can't really grab that thing anywhere. Yes, I could delete the dashed lines here because these are the fold areas, but I shouldn't have any elements in that fold area that is important, right? And because this layer, I'm going to rename this template layer, and I'm going to rename this design layer, just so that you can see the way I have this template set up. So we know this is the front and this is the back, really important. This is the interior kind of panel, and this is the business card holder. Now, something to be said about a folder design and the elements that are traditionally on the folder design. Normally there is branding, image, colors, shapes, vector graphics, and the corporate logo and any tagline they might have on the front cover. The back cover normally has the logo smaller traditionally towards the bottom of the page, and any contact information, whether it be a web address, a corporate address, a social media location or tag, something branding contact point wise that they want you to reach out to, and any continuation, wraparound continuation of graphics from the front cover. The interior, this traditionally has nothing because it's the space holder for your business card. Some designers like to put a texture, a pattern, an image, something back there just so it doesn't look boring. It's not just white. I traditionally actually like the interior panels to be white, crisp, and clear so that the business card really stands out when you put it in these little die cut areas. And over here, I sometimes leave it open for an area if there's something personal about the company that I'm building the folder for. So if there's an interesting little ditty about the history of the company, I might put a little slogan or a saying or a mini little couple of lines of text just to highlight this person's business card over here, like #1 home builder in the US. Then over here, you would have the person, guy or girl's name of the agent, the salesperson, or the person from Devoster, whoever the company is that you're talking with, the rep for that company. So that's the lay of the land for the template. So the very first thing I'm going to do now that I have my design layer turned on and unlocked and my template layer locked is I'm going to start placing some elements. So the way I like to do it is I like to build background to foreground. So I'm actually going to go in here and I'm going to open a new window, and I'm actually going to hide my regular canvas window. And I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to go to Vecteezy, because I'm thinking it's a home builder. I want to do an image that wraps from the front to the back. I'm going to do like green wave and just see what I get. And when I do green wave, you're going to see all of these that are all different patterns. Now, free are the ones that we're going to play around with because we're in free world for downloading assets. So you'll notice this one, which is bigger on this side and smaller on this side, which means the front cover would have this big green wave and the back cover would have a little bit less. That might be an interesting solution. You do have all of these that have full image bleeds. That might be interesting. Oh, that mountains thing's cool, but it's Pinterest. It's not a free image. So I'm going to scroll down, just see if there's anything that kind of tickles my fancy a little bit more than something else. I'm just looking at the free ones for the most part so that I can see what is vector and what is scalable and what might be something that I want to use. These are really beautiful because they're full color, full image, but I don't know that I necessarily want that, even though this is amazing for a really large image banner that we could really do something with from a design standpoint. That actually would be a cool panoramic image. I might download two, actually. I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to click on free download. I'm going to download this one because I might use it as just an image band that goes across the entire cover now that I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to open this one, download that, dump it over there. And I'm going to use my back button and I'm going to go, and I think I'm just going to grab one of these ones on the top. That's cool. I'm going to close that and click free download. And so this will give me two assets, and I'm actually going to tuck this away after I do it so that I can open this thing up. So I'm going to drag this over here. Remember that this template's in Illustrator. So this is really beautiful for doing. So I'm going to double click on that and double click on this. And I'm going to trash my zip files so that I only have my regular folders. And here's my EPS file. So I'm going to drag that down to Illustrator. I'm not going to slice it. Here's my image. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Remember, this is a scalable graphic. So I'm just going to dump it in. And then I'm going to go to my scale tool. I'm just going to shrink this thing down like 50%. So here it is, kind of cool. I'm going to do Shift Option so I can really scale it down. And I think I'm going to run this thing from the cover all the way to the back. So let's zoom in a little bit. And so now I see I run it right to the fold line, and I'm going to run this one right to the fold line. So I'm going to zoom in, make sure that I have this thing perfectly to the fold line, because I don't want it to bleed over. So there it is. You zoom out. And so now I kind of have this funky pattern going on here. This is going to run from front to back for me. I'm going to go into my layers now. And once I have it exactly where I want it, there it is. I'm going to lock that. So now my image is locked. It's in the place that I want it. So now let's see here. That's the one. Let me see if this is the other image. So I'm going to open this. And you're going to see I'm just going to build some different assets here just to kind of see what I have going on. So I'm going to right click and ungroup it. And let's just see what is grouped together. So I'm going to right click and ungroup it again. I'm just trying to figure out what the assets are here that I'm playing around with. And so now that should be that. I'm actually going to use my direct select and get rid of this drop shadow. So I only have this. Now, you'll notice the background is separate. So I deleted that. So I'm going to copy just this. And this is a clipping mask on this document. So I'm going to close that after I paste this in there. All right, so here's my little tiny image. I'm going to hold down Shift Option, and I'm going to scale this thing up. Now keep in mind, I want this thing to run the full length of this folder. So I'm going to scale it, and then I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to use my arrow keys to nudge this over so that it's right on that fold line. Now, when I zoom in, you're going to see it does not run perfectly to that edge. So let's see. There it is right there. And so I have it now perfectly going from one to the other. Now, this is where that whole clipping mask comes in. This little box is clipping the wave. So if I direct select and hold down Shift and direct select that, I can actually move the clipping mask down. So let's see what that is. And then let's see what's going on here. It's got two containers. So let's drag that down. All right, so there it is. Now, just for cleanliness of the purpose, I'm going to select this and I'm going to shrink down the bottom of this too. Just so that I know nothing is going from one edge to the other. So now in my layers, I have all of these set up. And so I think I'm going to take this, I'm going to drag it down below that so it's behind this template. And I'm just playing around. I could, if I didn't love that, I could get rid of this one and my folder just be this really cool wave here. Maybe I'll do that. I was just showing you, some different options as we creatively problem solve this. And so we have everything pretty much the way we need it to be. It looks like there's a bunch of clipping masks to this particular shape. So there we go. And so here's the beginning of our folder. It's important not to run your color onto that. So I'm going to name this background BG layer. That way I can add a new layer and I can lock this one because it's exactly the way I want it. And so now we're just going to name, I like to do mid ground. And so now we have middle ground. And that's kind of where we're going to place, some of our elements. I like to use the foreground for text. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that I have that image brought in, I don't need to save that. And I actually don't need these anymore. So I'm going to get rid of that. So now I can get in and place my logo. So here's my DR Horton. Now I'm just going to take it over here and tap my cursor, and that means it's in at 100% final output or resolution. And so here's my little logo. I don't need it that big. So I'm going to do Shift Option and kind of bring it in there a little bit smaller. Sometimes I'll do this. If someone gives me a logo, and this is their logo right here, I'll go in and I'll go into the properties, and I will do a quick image trace. And in this case, it's a logo. So let's go 3 color. And then I'm going to do expand so that it makes it this shape. And I'm going to go in and get rid of the white. These are all just little tricks, so watch what I do. So do you see that? So let's undo that. I'm going to zoom in now and watch what I do. I'm going to go in here and ungroup it because these 2 things. So I'm going to ungroup that, or release compound path. So I could select these 2 things. And let's figure out what we have for an object. So I'm going to select this. Let's zoom in. Let's see what we have going on here. So I'm going to copy this and delete it and do edit, paste in place. And then it looks like I deleted one of the dots by mistake. So I'm just going to connect that and make it a shape again. And then this shape, select it with this shape. I can cut the hole out. And it looks like there's a white shape behind it. And then we'll just clear that. And so let's see. It's going to make my life easy because there's actually a little mini white shape back there. So that's what it's seeing. So clear that out. And so I'm just showing you some of the tricks of the trade as it relates to, cleaning up some scalable logos. Now this would be, it was fine as an image. And the client should have a clean logo for you, but you never know. Realistically, you never know. I've had to recreate so many things for a client before. And so I'm just going to zoom out there, and there's our logo. So now I'm going to select this and group it. And I just did that so now it's scalable. So now it's a little cleaner and crisper and scalable. So I'm going to go ahead and do Shift Option, scale this down a little bit, and I'm going to drop it over here. Traditionally, down in the lower right-hand corner is where you'll find logos and folders, but definitely off the edge of these 2 creasing lines or folding lines. So imagine a little picture window. You need to stay inside the picture window of this panel, just like that one. And on the back, I'm going to do copy and paste. On the back, traditionally, there is a centered, smaller version of the logo, like this. And then there's normally some contact information below it and just some imagery most times, but sometimes there's a little story or a little history or a tagline or something like that. So we'll do that. So we got the beginning of this folder set up. And now, like I said, If you're not a Vecteezy lover for the vector, you also have to be a photo lover. So I'm going to do new homes. Let's see if we can get some cool images from new homes. Because remember, D.R. Horton builds all kinds of stuff. So this could be a bathroom in a D.R. Horton house. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. I'm going to drag and drop that over there. And let's just see, there's just so many cool images. Like, you know, if D.R. Horton wanted to be like super chic, we could show some cool interior spaces. I know they don't build houses like this, but man, is that a cool house or what? So let's grab that. And then I need something, you know, a little more traditional. So I'm going to grab this. And I'm going to use that image on the front and maybe the super modern house on the back, just to give you an idea. And so let's take that. And so the first thing I'm going to do is drag and drop this image. And holy smokes, it's huge. I'm going to go in and make sure that it's embedded. That way I don't need the image on the desktop anymore. But look how crystal clear this is because we used pixels. So let's shrink this baby down to like 20%. So here's our image. So there's the first one. So I'm going to do Shift Option and just scale it down because I'm just going to do a few thumbnails on the front. So that's number one. And then number two is maybe this one. But see how huge they are? So you want to make sure that you embed and then you scale down. And so there's the next one. Grab the corner, Shift Option. I'm embedding because nowadays file size isn't as critical as it was before. So I can trash this. I can trash this because they're embedded. I'm going to do this one for the front. So let's drop that in. Let's embed it. And let's do like 20%. So here are my images. And then last but not least, so I can trash this. I drop this one in. Ooh, I love this one. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to double click. And that's good. All right, so now I have all these images. They're all still middle ground because any text elements I traditionally use as my foreground. So I'm going to use middle ground for any image overlays or anything like that. I will tell you that I'm thinking I want to make this image run across both panels. So I'm just going to scale that down. And then I'm going to take the rectangular shape tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle like a panoramic image would be. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to select that, hold down Shift and select that. And then you can right click on it and make a clipping mask. So now I've cut this thing out of its. And so now let's zoom in. I got to make sure that I'm in the safety areas. So you see, there's the dashed lines. So I'm going to move that there. So I got to scale this in just a skosh to right there. So we're still in that dashed line area. Remember, that's the fold. Zoom out a little bit. Now you can really see what's going on. So I think now that I see my layout, I'm going to make this a little more panoramic. So I'm going to do that. I'm using direct select to really trim this thing into this kind of panoramic image. So it looks interesting because you're folding across this seam right here, but this would be beautiful to see this in the front and this in the back as you turn the folder over. I have my logo right there. I'm going to minimize this for a second because I want to do something with these images over here. So I think I'm going to do like, so let's do this. I'm going to move this down so it's a little bit more in that picture window area. And I'm going to do this. I like to do, so I'm going to draw like a circle. And just for the sake of the process, I'm going to make it white so you can definitely see it. And then I'm going to do Shift Option, and I'm going to drag off a copy. And so now I want to make sure that they're all spaced equally apart. And then I'm going to center them inside this panel, which is right there. Okay. So then I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to do Edit, Paste, and I'm going to move these over, and I'm going to change the color of them because I might need the actual shape to do something with it after I do what I want to do here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over. I'm going to do Shift Option. I'm going to scale it down so it's pretty much kind of within this shape. And then watch, I'm going to hold down Shift, select both, and I'm going to clip it so that it's cut out of that circle. And I'm going to do the same with the bathroom. Shift Option, scale it down so it's kind of the width of this. Select both by holding down Shift. And I'm going to make a clipping mask. And then last but not least is this house image. I'm going to shrink it down so it's, fits the whole height, but also kind of captures the basics of the house. Hold down Shift to select both and do clipping mask. So now you can see that these are cut out. These are all still in the front. I'm going to hold down Shift to select them all, and I'm going to apply a drop shadow. And so that's fine, but I don't normally traditionally like really heavy drop shadows. So I'm going to do it like a 35. So there we go. And then I like these. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that to an outline. I'm going to make these white. I'm going to make the stroke to the outside of the shape and make it like 2 point. And I'm going to bring it over and drop it right on top of those circles. So now you can see there's a white cutout for them. And so now we got something going here. Now, something I love to do is to sample the colors out of the logo and use them for colors in my design. So I think I'm going to just do a little pinstriping. So watch what I do. I'm going to take this and draw a little stripe across, and then use the eyedropper and sample the blue. So I've got a little blue stripe there, and I'm going to do Shift Option, and I'm going to drag it down to there. But remember, I need to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. So they're in front of that stripe. And then I'm going to do a red stripe too. But I'm going to give it a little separation. So let's use the eyedropper. Grab the red. I'm going to do Shift Option. Give this thing a little space. There it is. Select those, right click, Arrange, Bring to Front. So now you can see what I got going on. And I'll probably move this a little closer. I actually think I'm going to move both a little closer, so they look a little bit more like that. And remember, I could trash this now. I'm going to go ahead and save this while I'm working on it. So I'm just going to name it McElroy folder. Uh-oh. Mayday. Had an Illustrator issue, so reopen it up we do. And I'm going to recover my document. Voila, there it is. Oh, but it did not save my, ignore that. It did not save my move up, and it did not save this. So, and let's do Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. All right, we're back in the game. We're back where we're supposed to be. This has to be nudged down just a skosh too. And I also notice that this thing is not on the fold. There we go. All right, we're in good shape. Looks like the bottom one needs a little attention too. So there it is. All right, we're in good shape. All right, so, and I always like to use the web also. So let's go to DR Horton and see if they have any text or taglines or anything. So it's definitely drhorton.com. And let's just see. We just need the regular old DR Horton. Okay, so what is it? Together we are America's builder. So I'm going to use my text tool, cap lock. Together we are America's builder. I like lowercase, so just for the sake of the process, I'm going to kind of drop that in there. Remember, safety lines, right? So you don't want to be too close to the edge. I'm going to make it white so you can really truly see it. Was there a comma in there? Yeah. Let me put a comma in here. All right. And so then I'm going to use my skills. I'm going to try to align that period up with the end of the circle using the smart guides. And then I'm going to locate a place in the background image, kind of where that seam is. I'm going to try to find kind of the middle area of it for my baseline on that text. And so now that I have that, I'm going to copy the same text and move it over here under the logo. I'm going to change the color to the blue. I'm going to change this text to drhorton.com, 1, 2, 3, with like a vertical line, 1, 2, 3. And then what's the phone number for DR Horton? They always have an 800 number. Do they have an 800 number? So let's just say this is for Southwest Florida. They actually have a whole block of information. So I'm actually going to copy this. And I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to paste it here. And instead of doing, I could still do the address below it, the web address, but I'm going to do, so let's go here. I want to center align it. I need to make it smaller because on folders, that information is small. I'm going to backspace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to make sure there's good separation between that text. And then I'm going to center it above the logo so you can see it there. And here's where legibility and readability comes in. So I just want to make sure that this thing is legible. So I may want to go with semi-bold just to give it a little separation. And then we'll zoom out. And then I can always do a shift option and down below the logo, double click. I'm going to do www.drhorton.com. So now you can see everything is centered and the logo and the web address, I want to make line up to the baseline of that. That's the beauty about Smart Guide. So now that sits on the same baseline. And then I can actually play with my spacing here. It doesn't have to be super close with it because I want it to read as this is a paragraph and this is a paragraph. So I have more space between these two elements than I do these two elements. But that's just a visual thing. And so now I could take this, copy, paste. Remember, this flap is upside down. And so I'm going to center that on that flap. And I'm going to take this and rotate it around. And then I want to center these two things. So I'm going to go with my alignment tool and do that. I'm going to center that right there. And remember, this needs to be a color. I'm just going to sample my logo. There it is. And I need to make it smaller. So let's make it like 14 point, 18 points fine. Center align it. Center align it here. Zoom out. And so let's zoom in because I think this can be a little closer to the logo. Remember, that folds up, so it'll read absolutely perfectly. So it looks a little weird to have logo, logo, logo. It looks a little weird to have tagline up here, tagline down here, the repeating of elements. But it isn't weird because remember, this thing is folded. So if it's laid on its front, you see this. If it's laid back, like on its front, so you only see the back, you see all of this. If they open the tab up, it's all white on the inside. The folder's white. So all you're going to see is the logo, the tagline, and the business card here. So just kind of keep that in mind, that it looks weird flat, but it isn't weird as a design. So there is the basic elements for your folder project. So you get kind of an idea of where things should be, the scale of things, the placement of it, and how you should clipping mask and place elements for the appropriateness of kind of the panel, the scale, the proportion, and how this thing folds and glues. Now, I see this thing, and I see this die cut and where that business card is going to end up being. And I think I want to center this on that business card so that looks a little bit more appropriately done. Okay, so that gives us the navigation of our folder projects. So that's your mini project one, right? So I'm going to go ahead and minimize Illustrator because our mini project two are these two DVD PSDs, which is Photoshop, right? Photoshop. And so now we need to take a look at the raster 3D visualization of packaging design, what it might look like when you're building in this world versus the Illustrator world, and kind of see what we got going on here. It's asking me to update the text in this document because this little area right here is actually text. You can actually edit the text in here. So this area right here is textual and it could be edited if we wanted to. Now, main container, here is our image. So you can see the sample artwork here, right? So there's different pieces here. Now, know that we're looking to put, this thing is already pre-built for us, right? All these over here are clustered together. We don't need to change those. This is already the highlights that make this thing look 3D, right? So you can see that. Then you can see each one of those tabs are all a thing. The inner box that has this funky kind of gradient. The main box, which is right there. And then our artwork. So we need to make sure that we drop our imagery into this little location right here so that we have the visualization, then you have the pattern background there. So everything is kind of set up for us already so that we have all the effects and everything. So we are literally just visualizing this front panel for the McElroy DVD box. So I thought, you know, I'm kind of digging different shows right now. I love Ted Lasso that's coming out. My kids love Mandalorian. So how about Mandalorian? I'm going to go over the images. Let's just see what we have here. So I'm going to go to Tools, make sure that we choose large. And let's just see. I'm just going to see what we have here as far as images go. So what's the deal with this one? 1,000 pixels. That might be okay. I'm looking at different things here so I can just see what we have going on here. This is kind of cool. Is this an image I can grab? You never know. Yep, it's a JPEG. So just for the sake of the process, let's do that. I like to grab guides. So Command R is how you let's turn off the transform controls. I'm going to pull my guides just to make sure that my image gets dropped into the appropriate place, which is right there. So I'm going to go in here and open up this. So this is different because we're visualizing Command A, select all, Command C to copy, and then Command V to paste. So here it is. And so now I'm going to show my transform controls. I'm going to do Option to kind of scale this down. Keep in mind that if I'm using this image, I'm going to want to use it for probably interior too. So, all right, so there it is. Oh, I love that. I'm going to use my magnetic. And so let's do that. I'm just using my rectangular marquee tool. Let's do that. Ooh, looking good. And so we drop this in. So you see all the tabs, you see the glare of the case. And so I need to get the logo, right? Because the logo should say Mandalorian and probably season 3 on it, because I'm going to do season 3. So I'm going to keep that image because I'm going to need to use that for the interior space too, more than likely. And so let's go back to our selection, Mandalorian logo. So let's see if this is something we can grab. So I'm going to minimize this for a second, just so I can see. Yep, it's a PNG. Perfect. So I'll drag that and open it here. And so select all, copy. And I'm going to go back to my, oh, wrong one. I'm going to paste. So there it is. And remember, I'm going to need that thing for the interior too. So I'm going to do Shift Option or Option, scale this down. I can't put it at the top because his face is there. So I'm going to put it at the bottom, right? Now I'm going to click the Move tool, turn off the transform. I'm going to double click, name this logo. I'm going to double click here and do Mando Image. And so now I can actually double click here and do what's called a color overlay, and I'm going to make it white. So now it's like, ooh, beautiful. Oh, I need the logo. I got to lock all these other things. I got too many things going on here. I'm going to select those and lock them. That way it'll be easier to grab my logo. So there is my logo. I'm going to shift it up just a little bit because I got to put in season 3, because this is going to be season 3. So I'm going to use my text tool, all caps, season 3. I'm going to write the word 3 out instead of the number 3, because I think it looks better when you do that. And so now I'm going to make it kind of black. And let's see here. I'm going to put some space between it, just so it looks spaced out. No pun intended. And so there it is. And there's the mock-up of my cover. And so this one's different from the folder because we're just visualizing the process of what elements we would need, the scale, proportion, and location of those elements in order to create a finished design. We're not actually using the shape of this, which is the template for the front cover of the booklet, which would be an InDesign file more than likely, that we would collage this in. So we're doing it as a 3D visualization instead of doing the actual flat template. So it's 2 different treatments for getting the idea across of what you need, how you place them together in order to create a successful packaging design solution. So look how cool that is. Okay, so now we got to go into here. And so the $1 million question is, what would the interior of this booklet look like? Would it be this side of it over here? I don't know. It would be kind of funky to do that maybe. So let's see if that'll work. So let's copy it. Let's go to the DV interior. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to hide this one. And so you'll notice that little arrow down. By pasting it just above the cover, it puts it in the template of the cover. So let me zoom out a little bit. And so which side of the image do I want to use? I'm just holding down the Option key. I'm going to move it. So here's Mando. So I have to make sure this thing is at least tall enough. And so I think this would be cool, right? If we just used, we need the little dude, right? So let's put him in there. I'm going to turn that off, right? So the DVD box is that, where you can kind of see that something's going on in the front. And then when you go to the interior, it's the sky with the little, I forget his name. Gosh, I shouldn't forget his name. I've seen all of the seasons so far with my teenagers. But the little baby Yoda looking guy, Grogu, I think his name might be Grogu. He's right down here in the corner. So now our disc is where we want to put the Mando logo, put an image in there. We still have to do all the same stuff. And so now if I select the DVD and I paste and I hide the DVD, you'll see that the image that I pasted is in there. So I'm going to hold down Option. And this time I want as much of this image as I could see on the disc. So I'm shrinking this baby down, but I want to get as much of that image as I can. And so now you can really see it. How cool is that? So there's the DVD shape. This is the overlays. So these are all the little shapes. This is the DVD overlay. And so maybe I want to do a color overlay of that so you can truly see the DVD. And you see how this all says widescreen? That's all the text in there. So if I go in and change that to white, it'll be over there. And so now let's figure out all the different areas of text that are on this disc that I'm going to change to white. Just making sure that I have everything there. All right, so now let's just make sure that this is normal and not multiply, because multiply means it's going to bleed into the picture. So when it's white, you can't see it as well. So you see the fill? We could either make that transparent or we could crank it up to 100%. I want to crank it up to 100% because I want it to be crisp. Like I want this to be crisp writing. So you can see all of the text. Now, the only thing I do know, is that it says 2007 or something like that. I want to do 2023. And I know it's hard because the text is really, really small. But I changed it. So that's 2023. I'm going to leave all the other information because in the visualization, you can't really read it, right? It's just a space holder there. But now we know everything at least is super clean and looks like everything. So the last thing I have to do is I have to find the Mandalorian. I'm going to move that down a little bit on the disc because I want the Mandalorian logo to go right there. So let's see, we can grab this. And now these are the overlays. So I'm just going to paste the logo in the overlay section. That way there's no clipping mask to it. And then Shift Option or Option. It's already scaling to proportion, so I don't have to do. So let's drop that in, zoom in. I want to make sure that it's already centered. So let's just make sure it isn't near any of the disk elements. And so then I'll apply that. And then remember, rename this logo, double click on it, overlay it in white. And so now we have all of our elements. Oh, we got a little widescreen logo here. So let's do, I think that's the Dolby logo. Let's do that in white too. So now you can see it, the little icon there. Let's turn off the transform so we're not getting all that. And so now you can see what the back of the booklet looks like, the DVD would look like, and the exterior cover. This is a really beautiful portfolio visualization. So just remember that you need to have the elements for your front cover. In this case, it's Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 3. You'll see Prison Break, the name of the actors. You'll see the information that's on the cover. And then the interior, you want to make sure you address the DVD logo, the little Dolby widescreen icon, the little text here and the text below it. And you want to make sure that you're pasting into the mask areas, which you will see right here. So you always select the shape of the mask and do edit paste so the image goes in above that. So it creates this little down arrow, which means it's in essence doing a clipping mask based on their shape. And so here's this. I'm going to show transform controls. And if I wanted to, I could do this. So you see how I can put a slant on that, just an ever so slight slant on it so that it looks like it's part of that booklet, which would change my cropping perspective. So you see how I move that over now. And so there we go. And so what a beautiful image. Watch if I did. So I'm going to do image canvas, and I'm going to mark it from here, and I'm going to change the width to 17. It's got to go a little bit further. So let's do this from here, make it 24. So it gives me that big space to work with. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to do layer, flatten image. I'm going to do select all, copy, and then I'm going to go to my interior, paste. And so now I'm going to drag this over. I'm going to hide that for a minute, just so that I can put a guide right here, or roughly right here. Let's drop it in right about, I don't want to put a seam there. Let's drop it in right about there. Turn that back on. I'm going to move this just so it's a little bit to the edge. I want to cut it so I don't see that edge right there too much. I'm going to do this. Cut that. And so now you get that interior book and you get the layout of here. This is a nice little composition. Drag that. Or I could have done, I'm going to hide that. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to hide this. And I'm going to select all the other layers. So watch what I do. Select all of those. And I'm just going to merge those layers so they're all together. And I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go over to my DVD box. I'm going to undo my flattening of everything. And I'm going to hide that. Then I'm going to paste this. And then show transform controls. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. And hit return. And I'm going to zoom into this and do image crop. And now I have a perfect little composition of the front cover and the back cover. And that would give us both our designs all in one thing. And that's really nice too. So it's up to you whether you do the individual files or you mock it all together like this. This is a really nice portfolio piece because it gives us the exterior and the interior all mocked up in one location. Just remember, if you're going to do it this way, file save as a PDF and give me just this PDF. And then for your poster, make sure that you save your Illustrator file as a PDF and give that to me just as your last name folder PDF. And then you have two really beautiful files. And you can always go back later and visualize the folder using a photo of a folder laying down. And you can copy your front cover and kind of mock it up like this is for your portfolio, which is what I'll show you during portfolio class. But that's an exploration of our first two packaging templates, first two mini projects for Learning Module 1. Please don't forget about your student introduction. Please don't forget about your discussion topic share. And please don't forget about your chapter PowerPoint little history of packaging design. It's interesting. You might learn something that you didn't know before you start tackling the exploration of your first two mini projects. Let's get off to a really good, strong start. This is the end of the lecture recording, about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes or so, which will be perfect for replay. Please reach out to me by email if you have any questions as you start the process. And let's have a great packaging design session. Okay, class, have a great week.